Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Future of Golf podcast. We are joined today by Valentine from Maya Global, who are changing the game in terms of inventory management and predictability for golf courses across Europe and beyond. Valentine, really excited for this one today. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. How are you?
Very, very well. I believe, Valentine, that this is a big moment for the podcast because you're the first female guest.
No way.
How do you feel?
I feel good. I feel proud to be the first one. It was about time.
Yeah.
How many episodes have you got so far?
So this, I believe by the time this goes out, this will be our 27th episode. So
Well, yeah, it was about time to get a woman in there.
it actually it reflects quite accurately the demographic that are working on software and specifically golf software, I would imagine. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'm fairly used to it. I mean, even at uni, you kind of just get used to it. It's quite fun. I don't mind it.
yeah, exactly. You're the needle in the haystack. You're always standing out. I think that's maybe a good place to start, Valentine. Just kind of going back to your earlier days. Obviously, you're working on Maya Global full time now. Obviously, from speaking to you guys last week, it seems really exciting. What's happening? Seems to be expanding across clubs in Europe. But I'd love to go back maybe to your university days and what it was like maybe before you actually got into golf software. So do you want to maybe talk me through that maybe like 5 years before you started working on it and then what eventually made you transition to work in the golf industry?
Absolutely. Thank you. So I did my university in London. So I started with economics, and then after that, I kind of was missing the kind of practical and problem solving aspect. So I switched and went on to an engineering course, and I then did mech eng with kind of all option on environmental engineering, which is why I did like water management, some agronomy, some kind of more digged into environmental stuff. And it's throughout university that my end of university project was on a golf course. So I was actually meant to work in biomedical with AI, and it turns out that with COVID, the project kind of got on hold, and it was all complicated because it was meant to be with a university outside of Europe. And so I said to my supervisor, "Do you mind just give me, a free give me 2 weeks? I'm just gonna find something else to do." And then one thing led to another. I wanted to look into water management. Then I started talking to agriculture. Then I met a greenkeeper, and I can't explain. Like we literally sat, we bonded over 3 hours of coffee, and I was like, "This is what I'm going to do."
Wow.
And so the topic was water management on a golf course, and essentially doing some modeling to see how we could increase its resilience and its autonomy in terms of water. So how could we harvest water practically? How would that work? So model it and then implement some practical solution. And that's how I got into the golf industry.
That's right.
I mean, my parents have always played, so I suspect I was fairly familiar with the sport. But it's not that I was passionate about golf. I'm passionate about hiking, so I do appreciate the golf of sport, the sport of golf. Sorry. And so yeah, so that's how it all started. And as I did that work, I got to know many greenkeepers in Belgium, discovered that there is a ban over there and on a pesticide ban. And so on that, I started kind of digging a bit more into the industry, the problematics, and
Yeah.
got to know the realities of, greenkeeping.
Wow. I was just going to ask, so you weren't necessarily a huge golfer before you got into the industry? Your parents played, but were you ever out in the golf course much when you were younger?
No, not really. I mean, my parents have been playing for 10 years. So yes, I've been with them, playing and caddying them. That I've done a fair amount, many Saturday afternoons.
Yeah.
But that was pretty much it. And my sport have kind of always been different. And what I love is more hiking. So I just go in nature, but not through golf really. Obviously, as I started doing my end of year project, I did start golfing
Yes.
because I thought realistically, if I'm gonna work on something, I might as well understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And so I've been now playing for a couple of years. But originally, it was, I would say, by chance and nothing that was, planned.
Yeah. I'm really intrigued by this conversation that you had with the greenkeeper because it seems like that was quite a transformative moment for you. I mean, I'm just trying to picture you sitting down and speaking to a greenkeeper for 3 hours about turf management and green. Like, what was kind of the context of that conversation, and how did you feel before it, and then what like changed in your mind after it that made you want to pursue this idea in the golf industry?
I think I never thought about, golf courses like this. I never really, potentially never really thought much of it. And suddenly you realize that it's a very technical job. Like actually being a greenkeeper, you've got to have so much knowledge, whether it's practical knowledge and theoretical knowledge. And that's something that really gets me, right? Problem solving. And when you get to be tricky and techy, I love it. And I was talking and listening to them and literally letting him talk. They're passionate people. So once they start on it, it's quite easy to make them run. And I realized I was like, if we put some technology in your life would be so much easier. We could answer the question that you asking me. And so we just, hit it off. And when it wasn't for water, then we went into kind of chemical input. When it wasn't for pesticide, we went to disease management, we went to the historical, like, they've been greenkeepers for 30 years. The amount of things that have changed in the industry, in the approach, in terms of also all the land manager that you've got around your golf course is
Right.
just fascinating. You can just talk about so many topics and so many things, and you've got people who love what they do, who do it with their guts. And
Mm.
I think that's the best people to work with, because why you're getting up in the morning is because you're going to actually make a difference to people who actually care, because that's
Mm.
their entire life. And I think that's really what energized me and what made me decide this is what I want to do. Like, this is so, so fun.
Yeah. That's fascinating, and you certainly don't lack passion, Valentine. I think that really comes through in even the way you speak about this topic, and even just everything I've seen so far about your product. It screams to me that you care so much about the industry, which is fantastic. I would agree that I think greenkeeping is one of the most underappreciated parts of golf, because
Yeah.
as a golf club member, you turn up to the course and you just expect everything to be laid out like the red carpet for you, everything to, the greens, fairways to be in perfect condition, and you only stop rarely to think of the work and meticulous detail that actually was required to get that golf course in condition. Like when I worked at a golf club, when I was clocking in for my shift, and I thought I was early, coming in at like 6:30 or 7. The greenkeepers, they were getting their lunch at that time. So it's a very underappreciated art, and I'd imagine that the people that go into it go very deep into it and are very passionate people.
Yeah.
What's maybe some of the more underappreciated elements of greenkeeping that maybe your average golfer like me just doesn't understand, or doesn't know that actually goes into the job?
Oh, big but good question. Um,
Maybe something that a golfer doesn't understand that they actually have to do. Like what would be the most like time consuming part of
I
their
think
job?
something that the golfers in general underestimate how much they make a difference by doing it. It's repairing the divots. Sounds
Mm,
really, really stupid, but it makes a whole world of difference for greenkeepers if that's done or if that's not done. Because in terms of damage that they create by leaving them, it's to me absolutely completely underestimated. And in a context of pesticide-free management, if you want those divots are the place where you're going to get the mycelium, where the fungi is going to be able to attack. So if you actually repair it, you help the greenkeepers, because he's basically you closing the place where a fungi attack could happen. So that makes a huge world of a difference.
mm,
Something I think I underestimated, um, it's how they talk about it. Like it's a normal thing, right? It's, yeah, you mow, then you aerate, then you roll, you do this and you do that. But when you actually understand the complexity of, they plan a year ahead. And I don't know many jobs where in January you've got to sit down and plan your week per week basis, the actual plan of what you're going to do. Obviously, you adjust, on weather conditions, but I've always been quite surprised how much actually management there is and how much planning ahead there is, and that complexity of dealing with your team, with the
mm.
golfers, and with everything else at the same time. They just talk about it so naturally, but in fact, the job is a pretty complete job where you've got to be a very, very, very well organized, thought through person to be able to actually keep it together and make it happen.
Mm,
So the golfer just, because as you say, if the course is good, is the basic. It's nothing special.
right. Yeah, it's just taken as a baseline requirement. There's going to be a
Absolutely.
phenomenal golf course that I go out to play. I expect this every day. Um, I'm really intrigued by the planning element of what you mentioned about greenkeeping, and there seems to be a lot of forecasting involved.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious, before a technology like Maya was available, how were they actually managing all of this forecasting and keeping, managing this attention to detail? Essentially, is what I'm asking. How did they manage?
So there's two way. A, experience. At the moment, great golf clubs rely on the greenkeepers who's been doing it for 30 years, who just learned the hard way, and who just has that sniff, that nose for it, and who will just feel like it's a bit like a good cook, a bit more pepper, a bit more salt, people, just because and you have the experience. That's one thing, and also because he knows his course. It's a bit like us taking care of our body. You know what you need to make your, yeah, like to basically not fall ill, etc., etc. Um, the second thing, it's at the moment, it's all paper. It's basically paper and in someone's head, and that's
Hmm.
that's the whole issue. Is that when you need to do that, the new recruitment, you've got someone new to come in. It's really hard to actually train someone new and have that knowledge sharing.
Hmm.
And it's something that we've been trying to help with, because once you digitalize, there's so much information, because it's in books, and it's in agendas, literally paper and a pen. There's so much that you can get out of, as opposed that if you pen and paper it in a computer, all that information then becomes valuable to you later, because it can be exploited to get answers that you want. And I think that's where we try to bring value, and we try to do it in an easy way, because greenkeepers don't have time to care about technology. They just don't.
Right.
So it's about making it practical to them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's intriguing because I'd imagine with the greenkeepers, there's a lot of quantities that they would have to have.
Yeah.
So, like the quantity of putting a certain fertilizer in the ground, or you're going to know the specifics of this, but I'd imagine there's a lot of numbers to float about in their head. And I like the chef analogy. Sometimes the chef might not use the most scientific method, but they just have the feel or the magic hands to be able to actually make it happen. And
Yeah.
it's really cool that you're empowering those greenkeepers who do have those magic skills already to add another degree of kind of I'd imagine it's reassurance for them, just to make sure that they know that they're actually on the right path and doing the right things.
Yeah, but also,
um
season, I get, they're not what they used to be. So it used to be you always do this and that and this and that, but season are being completely broken with climate change. So now it's
mm,
also to try to help them find that link, because we were just talking about it. We had 20 degrees about 10 days ago in October. That's just not a normal season.
yeah, right.
And then also, because you've got less and less legislation are becoming stricter, you just got to be precise. You really, you just have to get it. You need that nose, but you also need to be exact, because reactivity is so important, more than
Mm.
ever.
For sure. And I'm curious about so you kind of started diving into this world of greenkeeping to learn a little bit more about the problems they faced. Um, tell me more about the first club that you worked with and how that whole experience was, and what the club actually thought about it.
So the club I first started with wasn't the one I did my thesis with. He was just a friend for friend, and Belgium is a small world, so you get to know the greenkeeping community quite quickly.
Yeah.
And one day again, I had a conversation with him, and I was like, "Look, like all those questions you're asking me, we can find answers." And so I went away. I basically wrote to him a few ideas, and I came back the next day. I was like, "Right, will you play the game with me?" So
Hmm.
we put some. So my condition is that you put some sensors on your site, so I can get some data, and then let's try to see what we can do from that. And so he said yes, and he accepted to just. We got some sensors out, so a soil sensor, dew sensor, weather station, and then I just went back home and started building an app. And I gave him an app that was the whole idea in the beginning was to predict essentially disease attack. So he was saying, I want to be able to tell you 2 or 3 days in advance that your course is going to be attacked on the Thursday, the Friday, the Saturday. And that's how it all started. Um, and, the most amazing experience is when at 5 a.m. EU time, so when I'm in the UK, it's 4 a.m., you get a phone call because obviously it was a start and the app bugs and there's something that's not going right. And he
Yeah.
calls, he just gets to work, he gets to Maya, doesn't work, he calls you and he's like, Van, this is not working. And you there at 4 a.m., good morning. But it was just,
Oh,
because you just know that it makes that difference because they call you at 4 a.m. And that I
yeah.
think was that was a day starting just amazingly.
Yeah. I didn't think greenkeepers must be a very interesting group for customer support because they start super early.
Yeah.
That's a great little early day startup story of having to answer phone calls in the morning. I remember when
Yeah.
we were working with a club in New Zealand and getting those started, we actually had organized calls at like 1 or 2 a.m. on
Oh,
our side. And we had to have the whole technical team on because we were doing an integration for them. So
that is a
yeah,
nightmare.
it's those stories that you remember at the start, and it shows that you care about the customer as well. So
Definitely.
it's all good. Yeah. So you had success then with your first club. It seemed like someone was really engaged with it. I guess we kind of haven't framed actually what Maya does.
Mhm.
So I'd be intrigued if you were kind of explaining that to a greenkeeper who you're maybe sitting down for another coffee with, maybe part of this Belgian community, and they were kind of asking you like, what would the benefits be, or how would this help me? How would you
Mhm.
actually describe it?
Well, just to put it right context, so the whole idea of what we're trying to do is take AI and new technologies and put them literally at the service of greenkeepers. That was the vision, and that's what we're trying to do on a day-to-day basis. How do we do it? So we've got a tool. So it's an app, and it's called Maya. Why Maya is because it's meant to be your personal assistant. My vision was, you've got your Alexa of the home, you've got Maya of the golf course. It was a bit like that vibe, and the whole idea is that if you have a question, if you need something to be done that's digital or that can be automatized, ask Maya. Maya will do it for you. Maya provide you the answer and helps you make decision. That was the whole idea. It's not to replace greenkeepers, it's to help you on a day-to-day basis.
Mm,
And so how it all started was very much an agronomy tool. So disease prediction, doing all the math when it comes to nutrition, so kind of helping on the day-to-day agronomy and technical aspect. And over time, we've kind of complemented the app with an all-in-one solution just to simplify their life. Because over time, they started saying, "Oh, if I'd have that as well, once I've started digitalizing, you kind of want to carry on with everything else." So we build the ecosystem, so it's a all-in-one solution. But the core of it, and where our strength is very much putting AI at the service of the greenkeeper and when it comes to disease management and the actual technical understanding of his course.
hmm. I think it's fascinating that you mentioned it's almost like a kind of in your pocket assistant to be able to like a companion, I'd
Mm-hmm.
imagine.
Mm-hmm.
In what ways can the greenkeeper actually interact with the tool? So, like, what kind of questions would typical greenkeepers be asking it?
So first of all, we've got like a real-time tool where they see where they're at in terms of nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur. Like it's something they tend to go every now and then on the Excel sheet, update and see the level. We kind of do all that math for them, and they see it real time when they put the fertilization. Clack, we do the math for them. The second aspect is that we've got a WhatsApp. So when there's problem on the course, it tends to be on everyone's head. And then at the end of the year, like, oh yeah, but we've had an issue there, then we have an issue there. And communication with direction membership can be very complicated. And then when he sees something like a drainage issue, flooding, I don't know, he renovates a part of sprinklers and he wants to remember like all those little things he wants to log digitally, he can just go on WhatsApp, take a picture, which he will mostly do, and send it to Maya directly. And we take care of doing the reports. And so at the end of the year, he goes on a map and he has all of his different issues on an interactive way to be able to use it. So yeah, we've really thought through, and our users, we're still working with our pilots every day, that everything we develop they need to be able to do it on the course in 2 minutes when they're on the machine. They don't have, if it's an hour of encoding every day, no one is going to do it. So it's
Right.
about tweaking it. So it's just that small little thing you've got to do. and then after that you can get value from it. And the best way we found is WhatsApp, because all greenkeepers I know universally across countries use WhatsApp, send WhatsApp to each other on disease issues, on flooding, on problems, and now it's just an extra WhatsApp you've got to send to another number.
I think it's a beautiful way you've put it, and it brings your solution to the greenkeeper as opposed
Mm,
to them kind of like having to adopt this crazy new way of doing things. I have a friend in tech as well, so they work with farmers, and
well,
beforehand they created all these complex graphs to show like when they should sow their crops or when they should take action. So they harvest data from satellites,
okay,
and then they'll give that information to farmers, but farmers didn't want to read graphs. They just wanted to know what to do. So now they've changed it. So they just send out a text to the farmer to say, okay, you need to do this on this day. And they've seen their growth rate go crazy because of it. So it's super interesting that that kind of parallels that in a way of just
absolutely.
you're bringing your solution to the greenkeeper. It's very simple and straightforward. Um, that's intriguing. So I'm keen to learn then. What's the next steps for you guys? Obviously, it seems like you've got a really solid product there. Do you have any ambitions over the next kind of 12 to 18 months to bring this across the world? I would imagine.
Absolutely. I mean, so at the moment we in around 25 clubs in 5 countries, and we've been, we went from being on my own in January to being 8 at this point. So it's been a
Wow.
big growth year for us. I think in terms of pipeline and improvement, continuing to improving the app. I mean, we've got a pipeline of 6 months where every day we have people working on the app. Mostly, for example, we focus on dollar spot and fusarium at the moment. We've been wanting to take other disease. For example, in the UK, anthracnosis is also very important. So we're working on that. We've been looking also in leather jackets and in soil moisture forecasting. So it's continuing to basically remain at the forefront of what we do in terms of data analytics and AI within golf. So that's the first and the most important aspect. Afterwards, we are working at the moment with some pilots in terms of turf more globally. So that could be golf courses, that could be in the education sector. And I think long term, I would love to be able to also make a difference with Maya in the agricultural sector.
Mm.
That's probably the next step, and it's always about finding the right person who's interested. But after turf, I think being able to help when it comes to soil management and making a difference in the food sector would be a
Mm.
dream.
Yeah. Perhaps I could connect you with my farmer friends who are in that
Absolutely,
space
I'd
as
be
well.
very interested to see what he's got to say.
Yeah, so those guys have really taken off. They raised a pretty significant seed round a year or two ago, and they're based out
Okay.
in San Francisco now. I think they're focusing more on the American market, but I'd imagine there is some synergies between what you're doing. But I think it's fascinating what the benefits that you've provided already for golf clubs, and the greenkeeping space, like the caddying space, is a very specific and niche space, and it's fantastic to see someone with so much passion for it. And I've no doubt that your solution is going to be groundbreaking for a lot of golf clubs and ultimately really helpful.
We will hope
Um,
you're right. Thank you.
you got to believe. Um, before you go, Valentine, if anyone in the audience today is maybe curious just to see what a little bit more about your solution, would there be anywhere they go online to learn a little bit more about it?
Yeah, they can go on our website. So it's mayaglobal.io. So mayaglobal.io. I think there you'll have most of the information. And if they've got any question, they can always email us at hello@mayaglobal.io. I think that's the best way, and you might be able to put the link in the description. But I think
Yeah,
that's the best way to kind of get to know us. And please do get in touch if you've got any question. We always
awesome.
love to interact with people. I mean, it was a pleasure to meet you. And we've been chatting for a couple of weeks now, and it's just so great to have other founders and other startup making a difference in the golf industry, which is a very fun industry to work in.
Absolutely. It makes it better when you know other people are going through the journey with you. And
Absolutely.
obviously people that are massively passionate is always a help. And Valentine is available at all hours, even 4 a.m. for a call. Maybe not. From your previous track record, it shows you are, which is ultimately care for the customers. But Valentine, my pleasure to have you on today. Really insightful, and obviously you brought your energy and enthusiasm. And I think that would be what we talked about today is incredibly helpful information for a lot of clubs, and I know would make a great difference for them. So, thank you very much for your time, and I am sure I will catch up with you soon.
Yeah, thank you for your time. Thank you.